Yo, 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 welcome back to the Boost Seat Sports Pod. Just two bros smarter than the average Dro, trying to get our thoughts out there. Hi, Griffin, you want to start us off in this week in sports?
Sure, but just for something to start with, I am in Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
Literally just happened an hour ago, and Owen is in Riverside.
I
Is that what you said?
no, Riviera, bro.
Riviera, sorry.
Home of the
Okay.
Genesis Classic. Tigers home course, bro.
Okay, we're gonna move on from that. So Caitlin Clark, against Michigan this week, passed Kelsey Plum for the NCAA women's all-time leading scorer. She dropped 49 and she actually broke the record on pretty much a eat shack three in like the first 5 seconds of the game. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
They
she is
did they did a
insane.
lot. They did a lot for for her after the game. I mean, obviously dropping 49. I think they set a franchise record in points for Iowa, and then uh, the celebration they had for it after the game took so long. Everyone in the facility was saying something about her, and it honestly took longer than the game.
Yeah. It was fun to watch. Definitely had it on my calendar to watch the first half and forgot about it, but we watched the whole second half. She stayed in pretty late in the game till like 2 minutes left. Her coach, in her coach's words, if she's gonna break a record, she might as well do it in fashion. So 49 points. I think she had 6 rebounds, 11 assists. She is the face of not only women's basketball right now, but college basketball as a whole. Like everything, all the eyes are on her. Me and you joked around, and we were like, "Is there ever a chance that like she could be the first overall pick in the WNBA draft, or is like there a chance that like an NBA owner has thought in his mind, hey, let's give this shooter a shot. But all know that probably won't happen. But congratulations, Caitlin Clark. She's only 97 points away from beating Pistol Pete's record for NCAA as a whole. So definitely gonna happen. I think they have 4 more regular season games left, so she'll definitely hit that mark. Jimmy G.
Um, Here, one more
Okay,
thing to add
okay,
about that.
okay.
So if I'm a GM of the Detroit Pistons or the Spurs, you already have Wemby. You might as well add another generational talent. Um, she would probably put up a decent amount of points. Like I can't even lie, but it's a funny thought in my head watching her try and defend like Giannis, like just fully just running down the court trying to guard him. That's really funny in my head. But I honestly think that someone might take a chance on her like really late.
I would. I think she would make more money. She's going to be the first woman in the NBA. She would make more money than she could even imagine compared to the WNBA. So I think someone gives her a shot. I think it's all in her best interest though, but I think she can sit in the corner. And like logo threes are logo threes. Don't matter
Yeah,
what league you're in. So
yeah,
um Thursday Jimmy G tested positive for PEDs and got suspended 2 games.
yeah. So he couldn't stay off the goofy pack, and so suspended for 2 games. Um, I'm 100% certain the PEDs he was taking was to make him look as handsome as he looks. It had nothing to do with his performance because he still sucked with and without the PEDs. So yeah, poor Jimmy G, definitely off the Raiders after that one. So we get to watch Aiden O'Connell as the
Yup.
starting QB for a whole season, which I guess we could talk about later.
Yeah. I definitely don't think the PDs were a factor for helping his on-field performance, but I do think that they probably had to do with his back injury and and healing process and to speed it along and make him feel a little bit better. But I mean, you might be on something with the looks, but I'm not sure about that. Last week, me and you talked about on our NFL predictions that we thought Aiden O'Connell um, had a shot at being the starting quarterback after a couple weeks,
Yeah.
and with Jimmy G having a dead cap coming up in middle of March, the chances of him being on the Raiders are slim to none.
Yeah.
So we might be right on that. It might be a little earlier than we thought, but I think we did a good job on that one. This is one that hits close to home to us, obviously, but Cavs going to All-Star break, winning 18 of 20. but are still 6.5 games back from the Celtics, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's just testament to how good the Celtics have been this year. Uh, Obviously, Cavs got off to a pretty slow start. They're probably around 50, or no, 500 when they started getting on this run. So if they did have a better start, they would be closer. But the Celtics have just been a really good team all year. They have the bench and the starters and the chemistry they have, along with just their coach knowing how to utilize their roster. So
Hmm.
I mean, they're definitely going to be the team to beat this year. I don't think any team is, at least in the Eastern Conference, has really any chance of beating them in a 7-game series. But a few teams in the West might have a chance, like looking at the Nuggets and the Timberwolves and
The
the
Clippers.
Thunder, Clippers as well. There's a lot of good teams in the West that have kind of shown up after not really doing much last year. I would say that the Thunder and the Clippers have kind of came out of nowhere, but I think that the Celtics are definitely a strong favorite to make it out of the East, and I would say either uh, a well put together Bucks team that is kind of not struggling the way they are right now, and the Cavs, and then I would say the 76ers with Embiid are probably the biggest threat to them this season.
Yeah, I would agree. When you have a team like the Celtics that literally just was in the NBA Finals and they go and pick up Porzingis and Drew Holiday, that's a huge boost for them skill wise, and then just them keeping their core together for as long as they have. The Celtics, as you said, the team to beat in the East. I think the Cavs can win 18 of 20 more games and still might be behind the Celtics. So we'll see how the back 27 go. But another game that happened on Saturday, UConn men's basketball destroyed Marquette and clearly cemented themselves as the number one team in the nation. I don't even have words. I think they beat them by 30.
Yeah, it was a pretty big ass whooping. I didn't watch much college basketball this year. I don't really do it as much until the tournaments start happening because that's when you really know what a team is made of is when there's a tournament and it's either you win or you're out. So I mean, I think Marquette was fourth at the time when they beat them by like that. So if you beat a team in the top four like that, like definitely gonna make a run this year, regardless of how the tournaments go. Definitely the clear favorite.
Yeah, coming off of last year's national championship into this year, definitely the clear favorite. And looking at the teams behind them that are dropping, a lot of teams in the top 10 are losing. Seems like every night. So we'll see what UConn can do. Um, Speaking of top 10 teams losing, Sunday, Ohio State knocked off Purdue after firing their head coach Chris Holtmann just a couple days before.
Yeah, so didn't see that coming. Uh, Ohio State doing a normal Ohio State basketball season and starting off good and then absolutely collapsing. Um, Finally got rid of the head coach. That was long overdue. And look what happens when you get rid of the problem.
Yeah,
Your guys come out with a fire. You have a intern head coach that is looking to make a point against one of the best teams in the country, and did it in front of their home crowd. So definitely a good win for them. Hopefully, this will put them on a track to end the season strong in the Big Ten tournament and maybe make an appearance in the tournament in March Madness if they can do well in the tournament.
yeah. Bruce Thornton played great for the Buckeyes. Edey had a little bit of a down game. I think he was a little under 20 points, which for him right now is the favorite to win Player of the Year. Uh, so Buckeyes played good on defense. The one thing I wanted to point out, because I've watched a lot of Ohio State basketball for Holtman's 7 year that he had, and we haven't shot the ball well since he's been there, and we shot the ball pretty well and pretty efficiently the other day. But the one thing that I really wanted to touch on was the subs that our interim head coach threw out there. Players like I know I'm gonna drag some names through the mud, but players like Zed Key. Zed Key still got a lot of playing time the other day, but it felt like with Holtman, Key was like the second scorer on that team and got a lot of minutes and Holtman would also throw rotations out there that Zed Key was the only big man on the court. And in my eyes, Zed Key is not a good big man and doesn't really have what it takes to play anywhere near the next level. So I don't know why you would want to make him one of the center points of your offense. So when you look through the box scores, a lot of forwards and centers played a lot of minutes, Key being the most, but the rotations we had out there with multiple big men, definitely sliding over to guard Edie, definitely was the right uh, plan, and obviously worked for the Buckeyes. So that's all I gotta say. Um, Last thing on sports this week, spring training started down in Arizona and in Florida. So you baseball fans, I would pay attention to that. I know Otani is not playing in the Dodgers' first game. I actually saw his scar from his Tommy John surgery, and it is sick. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it wouldn't be awesome to have to go through that, but he does look really good with that, and I'm sure he'll be up there for AL and NL MVP this year. Actually, I lied. This is the last thing in this week in sports. So Riviera this weekend. Hideki Matsuyama wins it. Shot a 62 on the last day. I think going into the last day, he was plus 7,500 to win the whole thing, and he beat out Patrick Cantley um, at the end of it. Hideki was not even like the 62 on the back is 9 under, and it's super impressive. I do want to point out that Tiger played Thursday and half of Friday, which it bummed me out when he withdrew. I watched all of his round on Thursday, and had watched the 6.5 holes he had played on Friday, but um, he went out with the flu, which scared a lot of people at first because there was ambulances outside of Riviera Country Club. But he's fine. He just has the flu. We'll see him another 5 or 6 times this year. So glad he's doing good, and congratulations to Decky. I do got to point out one last thing, Griffin.
Very good.
One of the hardest pictures I've ever seen in my life. So obviously Hideki started the day lower on the leaderboard, so he started before Cantley, and his caddy was sitting on top of the hill, watching the 18th green with
Yeah.
a vape in one hand and a pack of cigarettes in the other hand. That is
I
like one of
mean,
the
just yeah, goaded.
hardest pictures I've ever seen. But congratulations, and now it's your time to shine, Griffin. Daytona 500 just finished about hour and a half ago. We watched the whole thing, suffered through the very end. Go for it.
Yeah. So you started off this Daytona 500. Fifth lap in, there's already a wreck, and I'm like, oh god, here we go. Here's the shit we sign up for. Um, and right after that, literally nothing happens. Like the race is clean for damn near 190 laps, and a lot of pit strategy, obviously, good racing. I thought, just really putting on display the drafting that can happen at Daytona and the three wides. Obviously, everyone loves the spectacle of watching 3 lanes of cars that are damn near as powerful as a jet going around 2.5 miles. Um, and then at the very end, 8 laps to go, there is a humongous crash that takes out half the field. Bowman pushed Byron a little too hard, and Byron goes into Brad Kozlowski and sends him up, hits Logano, and everyone behind him is gone. And then I don't even know who this was, but there was a red car that lost traction and just slid up there too, just to add even more injury for no reason. And then my favorite driver is Chastain, and he was first at that time. He gets out of it, barely misses a fender, and I'm like, wow, this is like he might win this race. He's obviously never been close to winning the Daytona 500 before this. He's quite new. He had a breakout season 2 years ago, and then last season wasn't too good for him. So I was like, maybe we can start off good with a Daytona 500 win. And it was him and Byron, top two, with about I think 5 laps to go,
Mhm.
and they were racing hard. And Chastain throws a hail melon and tries to to get inside of Byron going into the last lap, and the Cindric, who the guy underneath him, they both kind of drifted into each other, and Chastain and Cindric get taken out right before the last lap, and the race ends on a caution. And Byron is gifted another win. Obviously, hated to see how the way that ended. Such a lame way to end such a good race. Um, Daytona is kind of known for having pretty bad endings, even though it's like one of the best races in motorsports. So um, I think it was a good race overall. I would have just liked them to throw the caution a bit earlier so we can at least race out the final laps, even if Chastain wasn't there. I just thought that Byron wasn't the one that should have won the race, especially because he was involved in the big wreck 8 laps earlier, and him and Bowman got top two, and they were both really involved in that crash. So I think they should have let it go out a bit longer, but they ended it, and Byron gets another win. I mean, I don't hate Byron. It's just I'm tired of him winning like that. I feel like he wins like that all the time. So
Yeah. Enjoyable race though. We watched it from start to finish. For you guys that don't know, he made the Hell Melon reference. Chastain is a watermelon farmer, so that's where he got that one from. But I mean, we liked it throughout the whole thing. Bowman kind of on my bad side right now. He's the one that kind of caused the big pile up with 8 to go, and then um, Chastain, he was drafting off of Chastain and then dropped back. Chastain dropped back, and then when he needed to make that push, Bowman was the one right behind him, and he just cut the hole, and there was no hole. But I will say the one thing that I'm gonna take out of this might have been one of the greatest sayings I've ever heard in my life. Now, did I type it in right? Cause I that was like 4 hours ago, and I don't remember it like perfectly.
where is this at?
Under the Daytona
Oh
500 tab.
no, it was something Jones.
No, it was Joe.
No show Jones.
No show Joe. Because like
No,
the
it's
average
Jones.
Joe. Okay, no show Jones. I this might be a new like segment on the podcast like in the future if like you got someone who's like supposed to go
That
out there
could.
and win, but no show Jones. Get familiar with
Dude.
that because that's something that we're gonna talk about in the future. But I also wanted to touch on like obviously Logano was a part of that crash, but he also said one of the greatest quotes I heard at the end too, and he talked about how the game is fun until it's not, and I think that's just something that
He said it
happens
was
when you're
fun until it sucked. And obviously he was like top 3. Had a really fast car trying to get up to Chastain there at the end, and then just gets absolutely hit from the side by Brad. And I mean, it's just a horrible way to end your race. But I thought he would be a little more pissed off in the
I know.
post game interview, and he was really just kind of just like whatever. I mean, he's been through that before. This isn't his first Daytona, so he definitely knows what it's about. But you just hate to see it with a car that's running so good there at the end. Just everyone gets a little too squirrely, and
Hmm.
shit starts to fly. So
I know
and
you don't hate to
also
see that.
yeah, also Hail Melon. So the origin of Hail Melon, uh, Martinsville 2 years ago in the playoffs, he was outside of the cut line facing elimination, and he was when he pulled this stunt, he was out of the playoffs, and there was like a lap to go at Martinsville. And if you guys don't know what Martinsville is, it's a super small track, like super small. So with his back against the wall and nothing left to do, he sends his car to the wall and literally slingshots himself like around the wall and uh gets enough spots to get into the next round. And as soon as that race was over, they banned it from happening again. So that's where the Hail Melon comes from because he did a Hail Mary at the end of the race and got away with it. So that's where that originally comes from.
Yeah, you talked about Joey Logano being mad. I was waiting for him to throw hands. Like I was waiting for that interview because I wanted to see what happened. But they kept the broadcast on long enough on him that like you see him walk over to the screen and watch the crash. And the minute he saw that, his face just went blank, and he looks up, and his head is just twirling around looking for someone. I was like, oh, this could be good. And Scrim later is gonna be really good. Looking at what happened after that. But that's all for Daytona. Atlanta next week. You said that would be fun.
Yes,
I'm
Atlanta
looking forward
next
to it.
week. Sunday, probably like 3. I don't know the time. It's definitely 3 though. Um, it's basically like a super speedway. It's just a bit smaller, and it's obviously not as steep as Daytona. If you get into some of the drafts, you can probably get up like high 180s, maybe low 190s, and you don't have to slow down on the turns. So you're going to see a lot of the driving you saw this weekend, and hopefully get a little cinema with the crashes.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, we'll continue to go fast and left next week, but we got to focus in on the NBA All-Star Weekend recap. Arguably, one of the worst All-Star games that you can have. But gonna have to talk about it. That's what we do. Celebrity All-Star game. Let's tell you one thing. As we learned from last year and on forth, this isn't the old celebrity game anymore. This is a celebrity game ran by NFL players. From DK Metcalf, Miles Garrett for the last couple years, and then CJ Stroud and Micah Parsons, the MVP, um, absolutely dominated. I think Parsons had 36. But
something like that.
when you see him driving to the lane on someone the size of Kai Cenat, it's just it's unbeatable. And they're like the only ones out there that can dunk, other than the gold medalist high jumper that they
Yeah,
brought in. But it's the usual celebrity game. It's not really that competitive. They did play on the LED court
that
in
was
Lucas
really
Oil
cool.
Stadium, and that was really cool. There were some reports before the game that like when it got sweaty, it was like really really slick, like more so than a traditional wooden court.
Yeah,
But I enjoyed it. 3 point and dunk contest winners. Damian Lillard dropped 26, and Mac McClung won on a 50-50-50, dunking over a standing Shaq at the very end.
yeah. I mean, he's a dog.
He's a
I
dog.
know he's not really in the NBA a lot. I think he bounces between rosters and probably the G League as well. But he can dunk. I know that for sure.
Yeah, he can
Um,
dunk.
he was the only person there that I was like, wow, this is pretty entertaining to watch. Jalen Brown, never invite him to an All Star event ever again. He one of his good ideas was to dunk over like a 5'6" person sitting down in a chair. That's basically a normal dunk. That's basically the height you get on a normal dunk. I don't know why he thought that was
Yeah.
so special. And then one of his other dunks is he just dunked with his left hand on the with a glove on. Like I think he was trying to beat the allegations that he can't dribble with his left hand. But I don't know what that was. Just never bring him back. That was so stupid.
I mean, it's the same for him in the All Star games. Like, I know a lot of people take a lot of shots, but Jalen Brown takes a lot of shots that don't go in. So,
Talk about a no-show Jones.
yeah, exactly. That's our no-show Jones of the week right there. New segment that they added to All-Star Weekend this year, which was very good. I think it was more entertaining than the dunk contest and the celebrity game, and I think they'll bring it back for future years. A little competition between the WNBA and the NBA. Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu in a 3 point competition. And this one was big coming in because Sabrina decided that she wanted to shoot from the NBA 3 point line, which last year, if you didn't know, she set a 3 point record, making 24 of 26 or 26 of 28, something like that. Had 37 points, which if you compare that to Damian Lillard's 26,
Yeah.
that kind of shows you how good she is. But
Yeah.
Steph Curry ultimately won, greatest shooter of all time. Will probably be that for a very long time. But Sabrina still dropped 26, which is the same
Yeah.
that Damian Lillard dropped to win the
To
NBA
win. Yeah.
con- uh, 3 point
Contest.
contest. Like,
Yeah. That's so sick.
it's insane. And I know it's not like I saw an interview with her and Steph that she had just flown back from overseas playing, did this, and then flew back to overseas. So I mean, congrats to her. I think the rumors going around now are to get like Steph and Dame or Steph and Clay against her and Caitlin Clark. So
Yeah, that'd be super fun.
that would definitely be super fun in the future. I think highlighting like those big names like that everyone loves in the WNBA, and bringing them and like doing something on NBA weekend is definitely something that I could see moving forward. I know the viewership on it was high compared to like the dunk contest and the celebrity
Yeah,
game.
I think it was good
So
for both sports.
I think it was. I
Like,
think it showcased that the WNBA can play, and I think
yeah,
that they've been showing that over the last couple of years. Definitely with women's college basketball has really brought a spotlight to women's basketball. So
yeah, I
I think it.
think just being able to showcase. I know the WNBA gets dogged on a lot, but I mean, if you show like the brightest stars from there, and they can go toe to toe with some of these NBA athletes, definitely helps their reputation, along with just getting new eyes on their sport, and hopefully getting them the players that they need to make it a, I would say, a pretty respectable league. They don't get paid a lot, and it definitely uh, is overshadowed. I mean, some of it is for good reason, but I think most of it is just because some of them, like the scores are pretty low, and it's just not the same level as a normal NBA game. But I think this is just a good start in maybe just making the WNBA a better spot for
Mhm.
women's athletes.
Yeah. So now to the actual game. We basically saw a normal NBA game. I mean, if you think about it, no defense, a lot of shots. I mean,
200 points.
yeah. So the East won 211 to 190, 189. Highest scoring NBA All-Star game ever. Also, first time a team scored over 200 points. And Damian Lillard wins MVP. Drops 39 points. Went 2 for 2 from behind the half court line. I think he had, I want to say, around like 10 threes. A lot of stars showed out. Karl Anthony Towns had a 50 burger. Shot the ball from behind the arc great. Had a couple heat checks there in the fourth quarter that he just threw up and they went in. A lot of dunks. NBA get Karl Anthony Towns in the dunk contest next year because I know he'll do better than Jaylen Brown. Um,
True.
Other than that, the game needs to change. It was horrible. I think it almost took 4 hours for one NBA game, and it was just a shoot around basically.
So I am not ashamed to admit that I didn't watch a single second of this. I saw clips, and it looked just as bad as what Owen is describing. Um, I don't understand why people would ever be excited to watch a 4-hour shoot around instead of some actual competition that means something. I don't know how they did it before we started having these problems, but it just feels like over the last, I'd say, probably like 7 years,
Yeah.
it's just been a either popularity contest or just a no defense, just kind of jog down the court and let someone shoot from the half court. It's just kind of boring. And if they're people come here to watch the best players play, and when you just kind of do that, nobody takes it seriously, and it's like, ah, okay, well, if you're putting
Hmm.
up almost 400 points in a game, like what's there to watch that for? So, like you said, definitely needs to get changed. I think a good place to start is start making incentives
Yeah, I
for
agree.
the players to actually play the game instead of just kind of shoot around. I don't know. You could debate on how to make their incentives. Maybe just I've heard some things about giving the winning conference home field advantage in the finals. I think that's a decent idea. I'm sure you can come up with like money incentives and all that, but definitely needs to change because I'm tired of watching these players just kind of show up and chuck the ball a lot and then go home.
Yeah, I agree. I think that probably the best option right now. I like you said, like over the last 7 years, it got really bad, and I think that all just goes back to when they switched it to captains and choosing your team went away with East and West. And I don't know if Adam Silver thought bringing East and West back this year would change how the mojo went and how the players approached the game. I don't think it did at all.
No,
But one thing I want to touch on with like the home court advantage of the finals, you have teams like the Celtics who had two All Stars, the Timberwolves two All Stars, um, the Clippers two All Stars. Like you have these teams that are competing for the top spot in their conference with multiple All Stars. If Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum go out there, I feel like they're going to compete harder, knowing that they have a shot to host in the finals with their team success throughout the year, that they have a shot to go host in the finals. I think that you're going to get a little bit more of competitive. I think you might get someone stepping up to contest a three even. But
No.
I don't know. The hometown kid Tyrese Halliburton showed out. Had a little white chocolate pass with his elbow. Um, Scored 15 points in about a minute and 15. But All Star Weekend, I'm sure it'll change. A lot of players came out after the game talking about how they view it more as a break and not a game, and that it's just not even that fun. But I don't expect it to be this for that much longer. But don't the NBA.
Yeah, I don't really have much else. I hope they find a good alternative for it because when I grew up, I'd say probably like late 2000, early 2010s. I mean, you just think of all of those players that like you got your Kobe's and your Tracy McGrady's and early LeBron, Dwayne Wade. I mean, all the like I just remember those games being like super fun to watch, not just because it was just a bunch of players not getting guarded so they can just shoot wherever they want. Like I just remember it being competitive of who has the better conference, and I just
Yeah.
remember it being a actual competition. So I just hope that they figure out some way to make it better in the
I,
future.
I don't see why we wait till the second round of the playoffs to start loosening up on foul calls and start playing good defense. So that'll be something for the future. It is a short week this week, so there's not much more on the list. You had a short week in the NBA, no NFL this week. Not really any much NFL news as of late. Free agency starts in 3 weeks, so I know we'll pick up a lot when that comes. But we did want to highlight who we think the top three NFL free agents are this year, and explain what impact they would make and who would benefit more from it.
Yeah, so we had Chris Jones as our number one free agent, and then you have T. Higgins, and then our third one is Kurt Cousins. Um, I think uh, I think Jones and Higgins might be able to be shifted a little bit. The only reason I would put Kurt at three is just because of the ACL injury. Don't really know how that's going to affect him in the future. So that's just kind of like a gamble that I don't think a lot of teams would want to make. So I think Chris Jones definitely he didn't have like a stat padding Super Bowl. If you look at his stats, they might have seemed a little underwhelming. But if you watch the game, he made an insane impact and saved probably two touchdowns for the Chiefs. And I think that amount of value just goes a long way. And I would rather have him on my team than the other two listed.
Yeah. Um, I know this was our consensus list, so I guess there's no arguing about it. But Jones, I think he's going to be in KC. I still do think he holds a lot more value than some of the other guys that just got out of the list, like Josh Allen and
The Jacksonville
Antoine.
Jaguar,
Yeah,
Josh
the
Allen, by
Jacksonville
the way.
Jaguar, Josh Allen, and then Antoine Winfield. And there's some other really big names right there, but I think he holds a lot more value than all of them. But I do think he's going to end up in KC. T. Higgins, uh, is a confusing one for me. I don't know if he's going to end back up in Cincinnati.
I think they'll probably franchise tag him. And if they don't, he's definitely not coming back.
Yeah,
He is a, I think he is a undisputed wide receiver one.
I agree.
When you have Adam Thielen as one of the team, one of like an
I
NFL
was
team's
just about to
number
point
one.
them out.
Yeah, and like T Higgins is definitely deserving of that title. I don't really know where he would go, but I know he would make a lot of money in the process.
Yeah.
So that's why I put him at second because he does have a lot of potential, and I think him out of the shadow of Jamar Chase, he could definitely put up some wide receiver one numbers somewhere.
Mm, yeah, I was gonna say that. I think that he either gets franchise tag like you said, or he goes to somewhere like Carolina. I could see somewhere like Atlanta. They can bring him in and use him as another piece to bring in a quarterback, or develop a quarterback.
Yeah,
Like you said, there's a lot of places that he could go that he would slide in as the wide receiver one or at least be split wide receiver one with someone else. Because with Jamar Chase, he's not going to see that tag next to his name. So
Yeah,
we'll see. From the Bengals, I don't think it'll definitely hurt them, but he was injured a lot throughout the year, and I think they have with Chase and Boyd, and then they have another wide receiver. Their wide receiver for this year showed a lot of growth, so I think they'll be fine. But I wouldn't call him the number one wide receiver core in the NFL if he leaves anymore.
yeah.
Um,
Who
last
would
is
you put that as then? If they left,
oh,
just
hmm.
curious. You can
You
think about
talk.
it.
You talk first. Let me think about it.
Do you want me to talk about Kurt?
Yeah, talk about Kurt.
All right, so Kurt Cousins being the third best free agent on the list. I think what he started to do this season before he got injured was really a testament. I would say, like, if you just took his career and put it into 8 games, that would have been the 2023-2024 season for him. Um, there was a lot of really good performances and a lot of losing, and I think that's definitely summed up his career. I know he has the problems with the prime time and not showing up, but I think that kind of uh, died a little bit after the season he had uh, 2 years ago when he was fully healthy. He definitely showed up in a lot of those big games. Considerably in their playoff game, he was the only reason they were in it. And then some of their comebacks that year, he definitely played some outrageous ball. So I don't have a lot of quarterbacks in the league that I think are outright better than him. The age and the injury are the only things holding him back. If he was just a bit younger without the AC or the Achilles injury, I think he would get a lot more attention. But with the injury and his age, I definitely had to put him at 3.
Yeah. Um, I think he's valuable in the sense that he understands the game and is a veteran. And I mean, I think a lot of people counted Kurt out when he went to Minnesota to begin with, and then he came out and showed what he can do. And I think he's a big reason that Justin Jefferson has gotten to the point that he's gotten. And
Yep.
I think that they should definitely re-sign him. But if not, I could see people like the Falcons calling to get Kurt down there to help with a new head coach and basically a whole new team in general. Um, Back to the Higgins thing, wide receiver thing. I got three for you, wide receiver
Okay.
cores.
All right.
Um, I tried to scan through my head as quick as possible, but
Very
I
good.
don't know what order to put them in. And then I can
Well, we
also
could
give
just
you,
do that right now.
I can give you. Okay, I'm gonna give you. Okay, three. All right,
Okay.
and one of them is
Cool.
definitely lower than the others. But I'm gonna tell
Okay.
you. All right, Miami's on the list.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
And then this one's a shocker, but I think next year it can do a lot of damage.
Okay.
The LA Rams.
I
And
was
if
gonna put there. I was gonna put
really,
them.
let's go.
Yeah. I would
Um,
say they probably have the. I think just trying to get a wide receiver 3. Um,
exactly. I think all they'd have to do is bring in a wide receiver two, convert him to a three, and I
I
think they
think
could be
if
number one.
Puka, you know, just gets back on track of what he did this year, and then obviously Cooper Cup comes back healthy, ready to play. I think, yeah, like you said, I think they have a wide receiver room that's ready to cause some hell. I think probably the Dolphins are probably the strongest you've listed.
Hmm.
Just because of how good Tyreek is, and Jalen Waddle is nothing to scoff at. He's a very good wide receiver too, probably one of the best in the league. I just think the depth after that is kind of the issue. But
Yeah.
Wilson Jr. He shows up when he needs to most of the time. I know they have Chase Claypool and Braxton Berrios as well
Yeah.
as like a return man. A lot of speed, obviously, like you said. I just think they're probably the overall best wide receiver
And then
core.
I think, oh
The
no,
Eagles.
the
Is
Eagles
that is
is
that
what I was
what you
gonna go
said?
with it too,
Okay.
just until the Rams pick up another like third option.
Yeah, the Eagles. Um, Other than Brown and Smith, who do they have? Who is their wide receiver 3? I can't even think.
Julio Jones.
Yeah.
I know, I know. I just
I
wanted
mean,
to I just wanted to point
yeah.
the name
I
out. He's
mean,
not
yeah.
good as of right
This
now,
year
but
for sure. But he's
in the
definitely gonna
future,
bounce to a different team.
I think it's they're in the same boat as the Rams. But I think the top two are
Yeah.
so good that it separates them from teams like the Vikings. It's Justin Jefferson and then Jordan Addison. But I was just about to say
That's gonna
that
be
I
scary.
was just about to say some like future wide receiver rooms I think are going to be in that top three. Like you got the Rams. I think of a team like the Lions. Jameson Williams, he gets going.
I think if
Amon
you
St.
could,
Brown.
maybe put like Laporta in there. If we want to talk about tight ends
Exact.
too, like maybe if you want to just
Yeah.
like throw like ball catchers instead of just wide receivers,
Yeah. And then
like
you
you could
got
definitely make a
Gibbs
case for
and
them too.
Laporta. Like,
Yeah, you could definitely make a case there as well.
yeah. So
I think the Vikings are really scary.
they are. I think
Like,
if Kirk comes back, I think they get back on track what they were a couple years ago.
I mean, I know they've had issues with being consistent and just showing up, and their defense looks like really good this year. And it just sucked that Kurt left with an injury, but um, I mean, you have Jefferson and Addison showed a lot of promise. And then I think KJ Osborne is
Yeah.
probably one of the best wide receiver threes I can think of off the top of my head. And then you have Hawkinson with that, like a deadly combo. They definitely do need to find a running back. Um,
You
I
know who
can't
I think
remember
they
who they
ring up?
had
You know who
behind.
I think they ring up?
Who are they ringing up?
I think they ring up Dalvin Cook. Bring him
I mean,
back. Keep my boy Alex. Keep my boy Alex. Keep his jersey good. And I think they just bring him back because, like, realistically, we did look. I know we're still on the free agent trend, but there is about 5 free agent running backs. Um, let me think. I can ring it off the top of my head. Pollard, Barkley, Jacobs,
we can go through those too. Why not?
Eckler,
Just go.
Eckler, and okay, remember these names.
Henry?
Henry. Those are the 5 that are all free agents this year. So I mean, they can go pick up one of them. I really only see. I guess I can see 3 of those guys re-signing, like very confidently. But the other ones, they're out there and they're probably going to be in new uniforms next year.
Another really young wide receiver core that could end up being something. I think the Packers showed a lot of promise
I thought about the Packers.
with
Yeah.
like Reed and Wicks is the other one, and then
Mm.
I know
Dobbs.
um,
Too.
yes, Dobbs and Christian Watson was either injured or he didn't really show up to play. I don't know. I think get him in a full healthy season, he would probably do better than he did this year. But they just have a lot of young guys that I think
Yeah,
showed a lot of promise. So if Jordan Love can keep playing the way he did this year, I think they could definitely be a scary good group.
I agree. I can agree. All right.
I think running backs is also something we could talk about because that sounded
I'm
really
down.
interesting to
Let's
me.
just throw it out there. All right. Barkley, Jacobs, Pollard, Henry, and Eckler.
Yeah,
5 running backs in free agency. At least 2 of them not staying on the team that they were with this past year.
I think Barkley's probably the most intriguing,
Yeah.
and then I'd say Jacobs, just because
Pollard was supposed to have a breakout year this year and really showed nothing. He
he
showed a
did
lot
not.
behind Zeke and then came out and laid a goose egg this year.
Yeah, he did not show a lot of promise. I think Henry's obviously going to get a lot of attention just because obviously the career he's had so far. But I definitely think probably Barkley and Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs had the rushing title 2 years ago, and Barkley's just a freak of nature that I think deserves to be on a better team than the Giants.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think he's getting his career pretty much wasted in New York. If you put
And I
him,
hope he sees that. I hope he sees that and decides to go somewhere else.
I would take less money to play with a different team because I think that just the probability of you going to a different team and then earning a better contract is pretty high.
Yeah,
Especially if you take like a 1 to 2 year deal. Uh, and I think um, Jacobs as well. I know he didn't have big of a year as he did last year or 2 years ago, I guess. But his team this year could not throw a football.
yeah,
So they
agreed.
kind of loaded the box and kind of made sure that and I think he was also on and off the field as well. So I could definitely expect him to have a better year And then yeah, Pollard did not really show much for me. And I don't know how much Aguilar is gonna get in free agency. I don't even know where he would go that
Hmm.
would be better for him than the Chargers. I think the Chargers is probably the best fit he
Yeah,
has. So if he goes anywhere else, I don't think the role he would have is better than what he has now. So it'd be interesting to see what he
yeah,
chooses to do.
and really Barkley is like the only one on that list I could like confidently say is wasting his career wherever
Yeah,
he's like
for
at.
sure.
And it's not. It's just like Christian McCaffrey last year. I know Christian McCaffrey didn't make the choice to leave
Yeah.
Carolina, but his career was getting wasted in Carolina, and Carolina got him out of there. And look, Christian
Yeah.
McCaffrey was the offensive player of the year this year. And I know he could have been with that with he could have done that with Carolina, but at the end of the day, like he's not winning championship games in Carolina, and it's benefited his career that that trade happened. So I think Barkley needs to decide to get out of New York like immediately.
And that's not even to say like I'm encouraging players to like leave and then not be as loyal, but like just in that situation, you've been there since 2018. That's coming up on 6 years of being with this organization, and they've pretty much done nothing for you. You've done everything for them,
Hmm.
and they didn't even give you the contract you wanted. So I don't see I see that as you disrespected me. You've spent all these years trying to make a good team around me, but I have been the team.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones had one good year since he's been here, and they got drafted in the same year, or
Yeah.
did they? I think they did.
Uh,
No,
probably.
no. Daniel Jones was 1 year behind, but still, I mean, same situation.
Yeah, and I don't
And
think it's wrong for him to leave because like if you look at how the business works, when you get in those years where you're not winning games and you're winning two, three, 4 games a year, and your people start to leave, that's when the reset buttons and you have to start drafting right and you have to start picking up not as high named free agents to get yourself back to a winning team, to get yourself to a destination that people want to be at. And then once you drop back down, people leave. So I think it's just like the comes and goes of the NFL as a business. So I think him leaving really wouldn't get frowned upon too much other than New York fans.
yeah, and I don't even think they would be too upset about it. They definitely can see that Saquon was definitely like one of the best things that happened to them through this like 6 year period of him being there. And I think it's just another testament to the running backs have to like come together and make their decisions for themselves because the
Yeah,
NFL and the market for them is diminishing and they're being viewed less and less of, even though they are the backbones of some of the teams they're on.
yeah.
So I mean, he's got to do what's best for him, and I'd say they're probably one of the only positions that should be selfish in their career because they're not getting any
Mhm.
support anywhere else. So
And they're not going to get the opportunity that some of these other positions are to play
no,
as long as they do. So I'm all for it.
yeah, for sure. And I think like if I mean obviously bias on this, but if Nick Chubb decided to leave, I would be more mad at the Browns than I was Nick Chubb because I mean you can't even doubt what he did for the team, and I'd think that's the same for Saquon. I know Saquon had a little bit more injury uh, bugs through his career, but I definitely wouldn't um, consider his heart for wanting to play for the team. So yeah, I think it's just these running backs just got to make up their minds of their own careers instead of thinking about staying with the team because the team is probably not going to give them the benefit of the doubt when they need it. So
Hmm. All right. Well, we're at the end of the pod, which means it's time for the game, the weekly game. Um, this past week, big week for me. Didn't take as many underdogs as you, but I scored 600 points. You scored 500 points. I went 5-1. You went 4-2. Overall, through 2 weeks, I'm at 1100. You're at 1300. Week one really killed me. You took a massive lead in week one, but this week I'm coming back. I'm coming for that top spot. All right, you hear me?
yeah,
I think
I'm
I think
all
out
ears,
of
man.
I think out of my 6 games, I chose 3 or 4 upsets. So all I'm saying is I'm hitting 1,000 points in 1 week this week. So
Awesome.
I guess I could start it off. NBA Mavs over Suns. Uh, I know that rivalry's been brewing. The addition to PJ Washington and um, Dallas. Uh, I think is good as long as Kyrie plays and as long as Luka does some Luka magic. I think the Mavs beat the Suns in that one. And then in another primetime game, Milwaukee over Minnesota. I really have no logic behind this. Minnesota obviously is sitting up there at the top part of the West. Milwaukee has had a rough stretch since Doc Rivers got there. Dame really hasn't been that guy this whole year as he has in the past. I know sharing the ball with Luca, but I not Luca with Giannis, but Dame just lit it up in the All-Star game, and I'm betting he's going to carry that over. So Milwaukee over Minnesota in that one for sure.
Okay, so just to go back of the week, last week I chose South Carolina over Auburn, and they lost by almost 40. So, just a quick message to NCAA men's SEC basketball. I hate you. I will never,
Oh my
ever,
god.
ever choose you guys again. I'm done with you.
And then Auburn goes and loses pretty good to Kentucky.
Yeah, you're so bipolar. You're like a twisted girlfriend that doesn't know how to choose what they want. So I'm done with you. This is a toxic relationship, and I'm leaving. So my my NBA picks. I have the Nuggets over the Wizards. I just need to come back. I need to focus on the fundamentals, the basics. I got a little too slap happy with my upsets. I just need to bring it back and get a for sure win. The Wizards are terrible and the Nuggets are good. For the second one, I am going to completely reframe what I said and I'm going to go with, it's more of like a 50-50. They're pretty close in record. I took the Pacers over the Mavs. It's at Indiana, so I don't know who's going to be favored to that one. When I picked it and I looked at the analytics, it's like 50-50. So I'm sure the betters are going to fall around that same line. So I'm just hoping that the Pacers can get that out at
hmm
home.
I NHL. Continuing with the primetime games. I can tell you the next one is not a primetime game. So I'm taking Toronto over Vegas. The hot Vegas Knights defending Stanley Cup winners. Toronto though, been on a tear. Nylander. See him on ESPN all the time. Thinking Toronto can pull this one out and give me some underdog points. And then I'm assuming they're going to be underdogs, but I'm taking the Blue Jackets over the Buffalo Sabres. No logic behind this one. I had logic behind the last one. No logic behind this one. Uh, Going for the hometown team. Should have checked. I think it's in Buffalo, so they're probably going to lose. But you know what? We're going to roll the dice. We roll snake eyes. It's going to be a good day. So
So I'm kind of just starting to see a pattern with our picks so far. So
we we
most of the time,
we hit home runs
most
this
yeah
week.
yeah
We're
most of the
we're hitting it for
time,
the fences this week.
most of the time, we'll do a safe pick that we think is going to hit.
Like a
And
lock.
this yeah, like a lock. The severity of the lock can vary.
So,
Like
I took Suns over Pistons last week.
yeah, so that's
Like
a pretty big
that's a
lock.
pretty big lock.
But and then our second pick is no basis on the game. It's just a feeling of like, yeah, you know what? We'll throw you a bone. And mine's kind of the same thing. So I took the Oilers over the Bruins. This is the one I did. I was just like, cool. That looks good. That looks like a good thing that would happen in the sport of hockey. And then my second one, a little bit more logic to this one. It was just the Lightning over the Islanders. The Islanders just have a worse record, and it's in Tampa Bay. So I was like, yeah, that's probably going to be a lock. But you never know. So.
On NCAA basketball. If you paid attention to last week, if you made it this far, I made my two NCAA basketball picks. My ESPN was set to the wrong weekend, so picked games for this weekend. Made sure I changed them before my points got up, so I changed them. Went 2-0, so it's all good. But this week I'm rolling with what I ran with net last week. Kansas State over ranked BYU. Kansas State lost to TCU by a buzzer beater this past weekend. Beat Kansas the week before that. I'm riding with the Wildcats against the Mormons. Let's go. And then my other one is Kansas over Texas. Texas has had not as great of a year as they have had the last couple years. Kansas handled business against. I watched the game. I literally watched the whole game.
So we're just gonna say opponent until he
Okay.
can figure it out.
Yeah. So they
They
handled
did
business
crazy against
against
opponent.
their opponent this past weekend. I watched the whole game. Why can I not think of this?
Well, the
Whatever.
opponent
But
must
Kansas,
have been
Dickerson played good. Wilson played good. I'm rolling with the Jayhawks in that one too, and I'm rolling with the state of Kansas, dude.
Yeah, dude. Look at this guy, Kansas lover. All of a sudden, you totally like pancakes then.
Dude.
So like I said, I had a really big issue with how my NCAA men's picks went last week. I took Iowa over Wisconsin, and that barely hit. And I went into overtime, and Iowa barely won that game. So
Unranked Iowa beats a ranked Wisconsin and was favorited, by the way. So he didn't even get his 200 points from that.
they weren't favored apparently. I was going into that like, yeah, totally an unranked team facing up against a ranked team would be an underdog. No, that's just not what the betters thought. And screw you, betters, first of all, because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to run up the score. I don't even want it to be close. I don't want to. I don't know. I don't even want to stress having to go uh, a week with being within like 500 points of Owen. And I'm trying to put my the gas all the way to the floor, and you're not letting me because you're doing stuff like that. So to spite you, I am taking Marquette over DePaul because Marquette is, like I said, the fourth team in the nation, and DePaul is 3 of 22. So I was like, I mean, this is equivalent to a college team against a really good high school team. So I was like, we're gonna take it. That's gonna be a lock, I promise. And then the second one, no clue. I thought Baylor over Houston was a good thing to have as my last game. Baylor, uh, please win because I don't want to have to fight for points. I just want to be ahead.
And also, Kansas played Oklahoma on Saturday. That was the game I was watching. But
Yeah, no, I would rather you say opponent. I think that's cooler.
okay, opponent. That's the end of the pod. Was not expecting to go 57 minutes today. I'm not gonna
I'm
lie.
a yapper. I yap.
We yap a lot. Daytona 500 really threw off the script writing for this week, but you know what? Some
I
things
had a lot
change.
to say about that race,
All
and
right,
I'm sure
well,
I'm gonna have a lot more to say in Atlanta. So much.
thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. Stick around, and we'll see you next week.